Nigeria, the most populous country in Africa, has joined BRICS. Now, what does that mean for Africa and the world at large? You know, we have two main world bodies that control economic power. That's the G7 nation and then the BRICS nation. The G7 nation are mostly countries in the West, the countries that colonized Africa. The United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, France, Canada, and then Japan. Those countries form the G7 nation. And then we have the BRICS nation. BRICS was formed in the year 2009 by Brazil, India, China, and Russia. Then the next year, South Africa joined to make it BRICS. So it was first BRIC and then BRICS after South Africa joined in the year 2010. Now, 4 years later, some countries were also introduced to the body, that Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, United Arab Emirates. So those countries later on joined in 2024. Now, Nigeria is now a new member as a partner country. As of 17th of January 2025, Nigeria joined as a partner country. Now, what does that mean? What that means right now is that the top 5 populous country in Africa and the biggest economy, the top 5 biggest economy in Africa, is now joining BRICS. We know already the new members that joined BRICS include Egypt and Ethiopia. Already South Africa is there, and Egypt is the biggest economy in Africa. The second biggest economy in Africa is Nigeria, followed by South Africa. And then we have Algeria and then Ethiopia. Already Ethiopia and Egypt are part of BRICS, and then South Africa as well. Nigeria is now joining. For Algeria, BRICS had written to them in the year 2024, but they've not responded yet. But it's likely that they will respond to join the BRICS nation. And that will mean that the top 5 economies in Africa are part of BRICS nation. And now Nigeria joining BRICS means that with a partner nation in BRICS and then the permanent members in BRICS, in total, we'll be having 4.3 billion people in terms of population. And that will mean BRICS nation are 55.6% of the world population. Now, in terms of economy, their GDP put together, both the permanent members of BRICS and then the partner countries, will amount to 42.2% of the world GDP. That's getting to half of the world GDP. It's making BRICS now more powerful than the G7 nations. Now, Nigeria being part of BRICS is very strategic. That's because Nigeria, first of all, is the most populated country in Africa. And when it comes to the world population, Nigeria is actually part of the top 10 most populated country. The most populated country in the world is India, which is part of BRICS already. The second is China, which is part of BRICS already. The fourth is Indonesia. I'll come to Indonesia. Indonesia is also part of BRICS already. Then Nigeria is 6th in the world and number 1 in Africa. And then Bangladesh, Russia, and then Ethiopia. So when you look at the top 10 most populated countries in the world, 7 of those countries are in BRICS. So they are controlling the world population and then the world economy. Nigeria is also Africa's biggest oil producer, the largest oil producing country in Africa. And in the world, they are number 15. So when you take the world charts of the top 15 oil producer country or the biggest oil producer country in the world, BRICS nations are now accounted to over 1/3 of those countries. The number 1 oil producing country in the world is the United States. Number 2 is Saudi Arabia, and then number 3 is Russia. And now Russia is already in BRICS. Then number 4 being China. China is also in BRICS nation. Then Iran is number 7, and Iran is also in BRICS. The United Arab Emirates is number 8. Brazil is number 9, and then we have Nigeria coming at number 15. What that means is that when it comes to policy making in COPEC is the world oil governing body, BRICS nation can now table a proposal and then they can get through more than the West or America. Although America is the number 1, you need a lot of people to vote on proposal before your voice can be heard or what you put on the table can go through. And now, though United States is number 1, when it comes to the total number of people, BRICS nations are accounting to over 1/3 of all those countries. Now, all those countries that are now partner countries in BRICS are about 9. We have Bolivia, we have Belarus, we have Cuba, we have Kazakhstan, we have Malaysia, we have Nigeria, we have Thailand, we have Uganda, and we have Uzbekistan. So all those countries come together to form the partner countries, and they are in line of becoming full members of BRICS nation. 2 countries in Africa, the Uganda country and then Nigerian country. Now, Nigeria being the second largest economy after Egypt, the most populated country in Africa, the largest oil producing country in Africa. So now it's the most powerful countries, the largest economies in Africa, the top 5 now are joining the BRICS nation. Now, one significant country in the BRICS nation now is Indonesia. Indonesia joined in 2024. Now, Indonesia is one country that is very significant when it comes to moving away from the ideology of the West. There was a conference in Bandung in the year 1955. There was a non-alliance movement formed just at the end of the World War and then the end of colonization. The countries in Africa that were colonized by the Western world formed an alliance together with the Latin American countries and then the Asian countries. Those are the non-alliance movement, and they held the conference in the year 1955 in Bandung, Indonesia. That conference was the beginning of liberation in a lot of African countries. One person that was key in that conference was Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah from Ghana. 2 years after that conference, he led Ghana, the first sub-Saharan African country to gain their independence. And after that, it spread across the entire African continent. So Indonesia being part of that. So a lot of people see that the fight against neo-colonialism, that is the new form of colonization that the people in the former colonies of the Western world have seen, that although colonization has ended, there is a new form of colonization through economic power. They formed a movement called non-alliance movement, and that was the beginning of independence in Africa and the rest of the world that were being colonized by the Western world. So Indonesia was that. So a lot of people see that BRICS is the extended version now of the conference that was held in Bandung in 1955. BRICS is now the extension of that. Now, we are now having a lot of world bodies, a lot of alliance. We now have the AES, the Sahel nation. We now have a lot of bodies. So now Africa is not being able to unite to have one voice. When it goes to the United Nations, the biggest bloc in the United Nations is the African bloc. But hardly will you see African people or African country putting a proposal on the table and getting through. Because even though one country might have a vision and they'll put it on board, the remaining 55 countries in Africa will not vote for that proposal. So although we are big, we are not united. That is why Dr. Kwame Nkrumah said that the independence of Ghana, being the first country to gain independence, is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. Africa being united, having the United African Force. So we have the African Union, but they are unable to put any proposal through and get it done. Now, if you have United Africa, it's better. But until then, we are having 2 main powerhouses right now, BRICS and then the G7. Now everybody is going towards BRICS. What do you think? Let's let's have dialogue in the comment section. Do you think it's a good move for African countries now to gear toward BRICS nation, to now join BRICS, or you think that we should have our own body in Africa here that will have one economy? Because in the near future, Africa is going to be the most populous continent in the world. We will have the most youthful population. So we need a lot of unity among ourselves to be able to control economic power. If not, we will have all these resources, we will have all this economy, but people with the lesser economy will have their way to be controlling us. As you all know, is happening in a lot of the Francophone countries being colonized by France. France's economy is smaller compared to their economy, but because they are not united, France is being able to penetrate them and is able to control them. Now, all those countries up to now, they are still, using the CFA, a currency being imposed on them by their colonial masters. So Africa Unite is key, but as at now, we are unable to have any substantive, body that we will use to control economic power in the world. Do you think African countries ought to now go and join BRICS, or we should not join BRICS but have our own economic world power? Conversation will still be continuing. My name is Sylvia. This is also in so. We are out for now, and we'll be bringing more updates.